So you got your ticket for this year's Lightbox Expo. A convention for artists sounds like a dream, but you have no idea what to expect. And just like I was feeling my first year that I went, you may be feeling overwhelmed because of the uncertainty of it all. Am I going to be able to get into all the panels that I want to go to? What do I bring? How do I get the courage to talk to the artists I admire? What does a convention for artists even look like? I'm Erica, and I've been to every Lightbox Expo since year one, and I've been on all sides of it: attendee, presenter, and exhibitor. Whether this is your first time going or you're looking for some additional tips to make this year's expo amazing, I'm here to tell you everything I know about Lightbox Expo. So you might be wondering, what is Lightbox Expo and what all is there to do? So there are two main components to Lightbox. We have the exhibitor hall and then we have panels. I think this is a great opportunity to bring up something very important, which is the Lightbox app. The app is pretty much your guide to everything, so I highly recommend downloading that before your trip. One of these things on the app is the map. You can see a map of the convention center as well as like the individual buildings. The Pasadena Convention Center has 3 buildings. The one on the left has 2 floors, and that is for panels. The one in the middle is an auditorium, and then the one on the right is where the exhibitor hall is, with some additional panel rooms. First, I'm going to talk about the exhibitor hall. I table at comic conventions from time to time, and this event is something totally unique. Unlike comic conventions where they usually have like a small artist alley in like the larger hall, the vendor hall at Lightbox is just one huge artist alley, and it's amazing. Another helpful thing about the app is you can see like a list of exhibitors and actually add them to like a favorites list. So there's like a heart next to each person, and it tells you like the table they're at, and then go to your favorites list and it'll have people already on there. I know as artists, a lot of us tend to be introverts and we spend a lot of time shrimping over our tablets, but I would have to say the best thing about Lightbox is getting to talk to people, even if that is a little challenging for some of us who are more socially anxious. If you're an artist looking for advice, some artist tabling are willing to take a look at your portfolio and answer any questions you have. When I was tabling, this was like totally okay with me, and even back when I attended like the very first time, I came in with my portfolio and I asked some artists some advice, and that ended up being super helpful for me. I had a few people ask me, how do you initiate that conversation? And this is a tough question for me because I feel like I am awkward. But I was kind of like thinking the perspective of I'm the artist sitting at a table and people ask me, and like what would I feel comfortable with? I would say don't immediately like rush up to the table with your portfolio and be like, can you give me advice? That's very intimidating, and it kind of comes across like you're just wanting something from the artist. Just have a chat first. Have a genuine conversation, not just because you want a portfolio review, but because you're actually interested in what they're doing, or even tell them how much their work has inspired you and has made an impact on your art career. You could mention about how you're also looking to work in, let's say, character design, and maybe ask, would you be open to giving me some advice on a character design that I'm working on? Make sure you ask first. Not every artist will feel comfortable giving you feedback or critique. If you ask for feedback, make sure you are being respectful of the artist's time, because they didn't sign up for portfolio reviews. They are here to meet other people at their table and sell their work. If you do ask, make sure you have like specific questions in mind and not expect like a full portfolio review. Maybe pick like one piece that you're working on and have very specific questions about it. And if they do decide to give you feedback, remember to accept critique gracefully, by which I mean rather than having like an excuse for every piece of constructive criticism they're giving you, try to be open-minded and take it into consideration. And then later on, you can decide, is that a good piece of advice for me and what I'm trying to achieve? Remember that they're trying to help you, so it can get kind of awkward if you're getting defensive and kind of like fighting every piece of advice that they're giving you. Another thing is if their table is crowded, it's not a good time. don't ask. And then the last thing I would say about asking artists for advice, I would consider buying something from their booth just to show your appreciation for their time and thank them for their feedback. Very important tip, if you are planning on buying art, make sure you try to go to the booths of artists. Like if they have a very specific piece that you want, go to their booth on the first day and buy it because it might sell out. So make sure you do that day one. Next, we have panels. Lightbox has excellent panels. Like these are some of the best talks that I've ever been to at any kind of convention. They are all by artists who are currently working in the industry. So like animation, games, etc. They cover like such a wide variety of topics, including industry info and like how to get into these kind of industries, mindset, stuff about social media, doing freelance things, storytelling, live demos. They also have other activities that you can go do, like you can go to a live drawing session. Sometimes they bring animals in. There's also portfolio reviews where you have to like sign up in advance, and it's like a lottery system to be able to get one of those spots. Another really helpful thing about the app is that you can create your own schedule on here. I would highly recommend using the app and going through all of the panels, adding every single one that you could be interested in, and then like kind of picking the one that you're like, okay, I want to try to go to this one. But like if there's a chance that you don't get into that panel, then you have backups ready to go in your schedule. And that kind of leads me into something else that's like incredibly important, which is getting into the panels and about lines. Lightbox does panels by ticketing system, and you have to have a ticket to get into the panel. These tickets are first come, first serve, and they are handed out at the room that the panel is going to be in 75 minutes before it starts. So you'll go to that room, you'll get your ticket, and it's one ticket per person. You cannot grab one for a friend. So make sure if you're going with a friend, your friend is with you so you can both get your tickets. And then later on, between 15 and 5 minutes before the panel starts, return to that room and line up with your ticket. You have to get there at least 5 minutes early, because if you don't, you forfeit your ticket and you will not be able to get into that panel. Make sure if you commit to a panel, you realize that you are going to stay there the whole time. You cannot leave early to try to get to another panel, because we want to be respectful of these artists who are taking their time to share their knowledge with us. So we don't want to be walking out the door, interrupting their train of thought. Another thing about the ticketing system is there is no ticket for the first events of the day. So that means you need to get to the convention early if you want to get to a first panel of the day. Lines to get into the convention can be very long, so I would recommend lining up 30 minutes to like an hour early. But just in case you don't get in, some panels are recorded by the staff and put on YouTube later, so it's not the end of the world if you don't get in. Before we get onto the next topic of what to bring, I got a question from Instagram saying, I'm not an artist, but I'm a fan of art. How is this expo for art fans? And I would say the main demographic of this convention is artists, especially artists who are looking to get a job in this industry. But if you're a hobbyist or an enjoyer of art, there are absolutely things for you to do as well. First of all, the artists here are incredible, so there is incredible art to buy. And also there are still panels that are really interesting to art enjoyers as well. Stuff like how things are made. My partner is not an artist, he works in finance, and he goes to Lightbox with me every year, and he just kind of like wanders off and does his own thing, and he has a good time. Next we have things to bring. I would recommend bringing a backpack because I have a lot of suggestions on things to bring. So first, we have a water bottle. Stay hydrated. Do not pass out at the con. And I would recommend getting a little clippy thing. Next, we have a jacket. It can get cold in the convention center, but also it can be hot. We don't know how it's going to be. It's very unpredictable. Also, somebody on Instagram asked me how the weather is in LA this time of year, and I don't live in LA, but I know last year that I went in late October, I was cold. I brought shorts expecting to wear those because I was like, oh, nice California weather, but it was too cold. So I wore pants every day. I would just say layered, breathable clothing that you can adjust if you need to. Next, we have sketchbook. Along with the sketchbook, I would say bring pencils, because otherwise you're gonna have a hard time drawing. Bring your badge. That's very important. You probably got this in the mail. It doesn't have a lanyard with it yet, but you can pick one up at the convention center. Some snackies, because you'll be going to different panels all day. Maybe you might have a later lunch. So I'm bringing trail mix, granola bar, and then some bluey fruit snacks. That's what I'm going to be snacking on. Then I would say bring your iPad or your phone with your portfolio, download it onto the device because the Wi-Fi could be just poo-poo. On that same note, you can bring a portable charger just in case it dies, and also maybe like your wall charger just in case this dies. Next we have business cards. Mine has like a QR code on the back, which I think is really helpful. If you don't want to make business cards, then you can bring stickers or some little trinkets. These are the stickers I brought last year. I have like my name like really small at the bottom, just so like if I hand them out, then people can find my art. And then lastly, if you plan on buying art, I would highly recommend that you get something like this to bring. So like a tiny, I think it's like a 1/2 inch binder with plastic sleeves so you can protect your art and all your goodies that you buy. Even though it takes up some space in your bag, at least your prints aren't getting crushed in your backpack. I would also recommend bringing something like 2 big pieces of cardboard to put in your suitcase to protect your larger prints whenever you travel home. So there are a couple other things that I want to mention before I get on to the last topic, which are like more kind of logistical things that you might want to know. So as far as like getting to Lightbox, I would recommend getting there the day before, because the first year that I went, I got there that Friday, like the first day, and I was exhausted just like from traveling in the morning and then like having a full day of con stuff. If you're local and you're driving to the convention, there's a parking garage right across the street, so you don't have to worry about walking very far. And then also a note on leaving, if you're traveling, make sure you schedule your Uber if you have an early flight. Last year, I had a very early flight. I had to leave at like 4 a.m. and I asked the hotel staff, do I need to schedule an Uber? And they were like, oh, don't worry about it. Won't be a problem. You'll be able to find one. Well, it was a problem. The ride kept getting canceled. So just schedule a ride if you need one. Please do not get stranded. As far as like places to eat for lunch, there is like a concession stand in the convention center, like in the exhibitor hall. And they have things like chicken tenders and like turkey sandwiches. I'm kind of picky. I've had both of those things. They weren't my favorite, but that's why we bring snacks. For dinner, or like even if you want to like take a break and leave for lunch, there are like a bunch of shops and restaurants and stuff right across the street from the convention center. It's like walkable. My favorite place to eat for dinner is Yard House, because they have this thing called a sushi stack that is really, really good. But if you don't like spicy, ask for no serrano chilies or whatever, because they're painfully spicy. Just expect a wait for dinner because there are so many people that are just going from the convention center right across the street. One more thing about food on the Lightbox app, if you go to like more, like ... there is a show your badge program. So you can get some discounts at different restaurants. And that means you have to have your badge. So again, do not forget your badge. Put it in your bag now. Please don't forget your badge. Now for what I would say is the most important thing that I wanted to talk about, the topic of like feeling a lot of self-doubt. So you might be kind of anxious going into this, thinking like, okay, I got this ticket, but I'm feeling like my art isn't good enough, and you're trying to prepare your portfolio, you're trying to bring your best work, but you feel like, oh no, it's just not where I want it to be. Or you feel like you're gonna come to Lightbox and like feel like you don't belong. And I know this feeling because that was me back in 2019 when I went to my first Lightbox. The first day I was so anxious walking around, and like I really wanted to talk to other artists, but I would like freeze. So I spent most of the day kind of just going to panels, and I didn't really talk to people very much. And then like at the end of the day, I went back to the hotel room and I cried because I felt like I bought these tickets and I traveled all this way and I was like wasting the opportunity. The self-doubt that I was feeling was like crippling. Like I couldn't get myself to do what I came there to do, which was to like meet other artists and be part of a community. So that night I talked to my partner for a long time, and he was reminding me like, you know, you're here and you belong here. Like these are other artists too. And I'm sure a lot of other people are feeling like this. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm here to meet people. So that's what I'm gonna do. After like that conversation, I was feeling really determined to put myself out there the next day. And it was really difficult for me to do so. I was really nervous at first, but everybody ended up being really nice. So that made it a lot easier throughout the day. As I like talked to more people, that also made it easier and made me realize like, oh, I'm going to be okay. Everything's okay. It's great to put yourself out there, but you're like, how do I do that? It can start with just one very simple question. What kind of art do you make? They can talk about their art and they can show you like what they make. And it's like, oh, cool. And you could be like, I make this. And you're like, wow, that's amazing. And then it's like, oh, look, you made a friend. You could ask a question about like the panel, like, oh, are you trying to get into character design? Because this is a character design panel. Then you can just kind of start a conversation. It doesn't have to be like complicated. Just ask somebody a question about art, because I'm sure they have things to say about art at an art convention. And if you really have a hard time like starting a conversation with people, maybe try to wear like a shirt of something that you really like. So like if you're a fan of something. So for example, if I wear my Starion shirt, then you know that I probably like Baldur's Gate. If I'm wearing a shirt like this, you know that I like Baldur's Gate, and we can talk about that for a long time if you want to, because I will do that. Please ask me about Baldur's Gate. But yeah, that like wearing a shirt of something that you like can invite other people to be like, oh, cool shirt. And then you can talk about the thing. I don't know. Social tips from me, somebody who doesn't know things. But yeah, like these kinds of things can, in my experience, lead to maybe you guys going to panels together or like hanging out more, like have like a friend to walk around the convention with. And then you guys can like follow each other and maybe keep talking even after Lightbox is over. The magic of Lightbox. But in all seriousness, self-doubt is something that is really challenging, and mindset is really, really important for coming to conventions like this. As artists, it can be really easy to get caught up in like a vision of where we want our art to be, especially when you are surrounded by a bunch of other artists and you can see all of their incredible work like right in front of you. It can almost be a reminder of that's where I want to be, but I'm not there yet. It's important to remember to meet yourself where you're at right now. It's okay that you're not where you want to be just yet. And like, to be honest, this feeling does not go away. Like even as a professional. I think it's also helpful to keep in mind that every artist was once where you are right now. They didn't have the job that they wanted, or their skills weren't exactly where they wanted them to be yet. And that is the key word, is yet. But despite seeing that they weren't where they wanted to be, they kept following that path and taking the steps to get to where they are now. I think it's important to honor your journey, because that's exactly what it is. It's a journey. Each step of that journey is important in its own way, and there's always something to learn there. I think being an artist can feel really isolating sometimes, especially if you work from home by yourself. I don't get to see the real life impact that the things that I make can have on people. But in going to Lightbox, I've met so many people who have told me about how my art and the things that I've made have impacted them and impacted their art journeys. And honestly, there's no better feeling than that, to know that like the stuff that I make matters. It reminds me that I'm not alone in my creative journey, and I'm also not alone in the struggles that come with it. I know it's not easy to talk to people sometimes, but you have to remember that we all have at least one thing in common. We all love art. We are all creative people, so we all belong here. Even you. If you're doubting yourself, you belong here too. I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know in the comments if you have any more questions, or if there's anything I missed. If you've been to Lightbox before and have a piece of advice, please drop it in the comments so we can all help each other have an amazing convention. A huge thank you to all of my patrons who support me over on Patreon. You guys are amazing, and you make it possible for me to make videos like this. So thank you so much for your support over there. I've also recently launched a free tier. So if you want to get a first look at all of my art and videos in one place, you can check out that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.